If conversation were judged by word count, the best talker in a room would be the person who never lets oxygen reach anyone else. Carnegie thinks the opposite. The best conversationalist is often the person who makes others want to speak. Welcome back to this book summary series on how to win friends and influence people by Dale Carnegie. In this part, we finish the 6 ways to make people like you. Be a good listener, talk in terms of the other person's interests, and make the other person feel important sincerely. The 4th habit is to be a good listener and encourage others to talk about themselves. Carnegie's point is not that people are vain monsters who can be controlled by letting them monologue. His point is more humane. People carry stories, concerns, opinions, and experiences they rarely get to express fully. When someone listens with real attention, it feels generous. He gives examples of people who became memorable not by saying brilliant things, but by listening. A person may leave a conversation thinking you are fascinating when, in reality, you mostly gave them the rare gift of uninterrupted attention. This is both beautiful and slightly funny. Apparently, the bar for conversation is sometimes did not hijack the story within 12 seconds. Listening works because it satisfies several human needs at once. It gives respect. It gives safety. It gives importance. It lets the other person organize thoughts and feel understood. It also gives you information. You cannot influence someone wisely if you have not listened long enough to know what is actually moving them. Carnegie contrasts this with the habit of talking too much about ourselves. Many people do not listen. They reload. While the other person speaks, they prepare their next point, their better story, their correction, their advice, their joke, or their courtroom exhibit. The result is not conversation. It is 2 speeches taking turns being interrupted. The remedy is active curiosity. Ask questions you genuinely want answered. Let people finish. Do not rush to top their story. Notice what gives them energy. Ask for details. Let silence do some work. This habit is especially powerful in conflict. A person who feels unheard often becomes louder, sharper, and more defensive. Listening can lower the temperature. It does not mean agreement. It means you are willing to understand before trying to be understood. The 5th habit is to talk in terms of the other person's interests. This sounds obvious until you observe how rarely people do it. We talk about what interests us, then wonder why the other person looks like their soul has quietly left the meeting. Carnegie says that if you know what another person cares about, you have a bridge. Use it. He gives the example of Theodore Roosevelt, who prepared for guests by reading about topics that interested them. Roosevelt was already famous and powerful. He did not need to impress people in the ordinary sense. Yet he took the trouble to enter their world. That effort made people feel respected, and it made conversation come alive. The principle applies everywhere. If you're speaking with a client, understand their pressures. If you are speaking with a child, understand their imagination. If you're speaking with a friend, remember what they are excited about. If you're speaking with an expert, ask about the work they have spent years learning. People open when the topic touches what they value. This does not mean fake enthusiasm for everything. You do not have to become spiritually transformed by someone's database migration or antique spoon collection, but you can respect that it matters to them. You can ask why. You can notice the story underneath the interest. Mastery, memory, identity, ambition, beauty, belonging. Carnegie's deeper lesson is that conversation is hospitality. When you talk only in terms of your own interests, you invite people into your house and make them stand in the hallway. When you talk in terms of their interests, you create a room where they can sit down. The 6th habit is to make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. This returns us to one of the book's central ideas, the desire to feel important. Carnegie believes this desire is universal. People want to know that they matter, that their work matters, that their opinions are not invisible, that their presence is not merely tolerated. He quotes and retells many examples around this theme. A small courtesy, a respectful phrase, a moment of recognition, a bit of admiration honestly given. These can change the emotional direction of an encounter. The key is sincerity. Carnegie is not recommending oily flattery. He is asking you to find what is genuinely admirable, useful, interesting, or worthy in the other person. Then say it. Most people are starving for appreciation and suspicious of flattery at the same time. That means the words must be earned. One way to practice this is to ask, what can I honestly respect here? Maybe it is effort, maybe patience, maybe courage, maybe skill, maybe loyalty, maybe a detail most people miss. When you identify something real, your appreciation lands differently. This habit also includes courtesy. Phrases like, I am sorry to trouble you, would you be so kind, and thank you may seem old-fashioned, but Carnegie sees them as tools of dignity. They soften transactions and remind people they are not machines. In a world of rushed messages and blunt demands, courtesy can feel almost radical. It says, I see your time. I see your effort. I'm not entitled to you. The three habits in this part complete Carnegie's social foundation. Listen well. Enter the other person's interests. Make them feel important. Together with the previous part, the 6 ways to make people like you form a coherent approach. Be interested. Smile. Remember names. Listen. Talk about what matters to them. Give sincere importance. Notice what is missing. Carnegie does not say, dominate the room. He does not say, craft a flawless personal brand. He does not say, collect clever lines and deploy them like social fireworks. The book's path to being liked is mostly a path of humility. You become likable by reducing the burden you place on others. They do not have to fight for airtime. They do not have to prove they matter. They do not have to translate everything into your interests. They do not have to wonder whether you remember who they are. That is why these habits feel pleasant to receive. They are forms of relief. But Carnegie's advice also has limits if misunderstood. Making people feel important does not mean becoming fake, submissive, or endlessly agreeable. Listening does not mean having no boundaries. Talking in terms of another person's interests does not mean erasing your own. The point is not self-abandonment. It is social intelligence. You can hold your own goals and still respect the other person's inner world. In fact, Carnegie thinks you will reach your goals more often if you do. This section also prepares the ground for persuasion. Before people accept your ideas, they usually accept your presence. If they feel dismissed, ignored, or belittled, even good ideas arrive damaged. If they feel respected, your ideas have a place to land. The book's sequence matters. Carnegie does not begin with argument tactics. He begins with character in conversation. How do you make people feel? Do they feel enlarged or reduced after speaking with you? Do they leave with more energy or less? That question may be more revealing than any personality test. Thank you for listening. In the next part, Carnegie moves from being liked to winning people to your way of thinking, starting with one of his most practical warnings. You cannot win an argument. The person who listens well gains more than affection. They gain access to the truth of what the other person actually cares about.